Okay.
All right, thank you. Welcome everybody on this rainy Wednesday. Thanks for taking the time to be a part of this meeting. We'd like to call this Police Services Board meeting to order at 9:05 a.m. I'd like to have a confirmation of the agenda. We could have a mover and a seconder for that, please. Moved by Paul, seconded by Walter. Any discussion on that? None seen. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest for this meeting? None seen. Thank you. We'll move ahead. I don't believe we have any delegations this morning. So we will move on for a confirmation of the adoption of the minutes from the last meeting in July. Everyone had a chance to look at those?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, June.
there's a couple of corrections.
Okay,
Sergeant Bentley was not here, maybe in spirit, but not in person. So that needs to be removed.
okay, thank you.
And our secretary took the oath. That should be recorded, perhaps.
Okay,
It's not there. Then we have 7.3. We have acting Sergeant McTaggart. I believe he's actually a sergeant, right, Jason? He's not acting. He's an actual sergeant.
Thank you for that.
And the last thing that I think we should record, when the secretary left, we should have the alternate's name in there. So Daniel Hobson took over, should be added. Those are the items that I think need to be added.
okay. Any other discussion on what June has mentioned there or anything else?
So I would just suggest, Chair Harold, that we'll make those, if you can adopt the minutes with those suggested amendments, or ask for a resolution to adopt them with those amendments.
Yes, that would be a good suggestion. Thank you. Would anyone like to make that motion? June, and seconded by John. Any other discussion on it? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much, and thanks, June. Correspondence. Do we have any correspondence today at all? I know of none, and I don't see any hands up, so we will move on to reports. Who would like to give the reports this morning?
I'll be leaving that with Jason McTaggart to give those reports.
Morning. Thanks, Acting Inspector Cinco. So since we're covering 2 months here, I'll start with the July report and go touch some of the highlights here that we had for the month. Our calls for service continue to increase with 440 calls so far this year. Obviously, the increase in calls for service is directly related to the reopening of Ontario. So as people get back into their normal grooves, they become more involved with us. So regarding some of the patrol hours and whatnot, we're just shy of 400 hours of patrol here in West Perth. We had just shy of 30 hours of foot patrol. Obviously, school is not in July, so we don't have any school reports there. Mobilization hours, which is our piece of decoding, at 14 hours for West Perth. Our auxiliary unit is back up and working, so we have some training with them. So they've logged 52 hours, or sorry, 57 hours, and then we have 52 hours of ride. And we had one COVID-related call for service, which is a good thing for us. As things open up and vaccination and whatnot. That's a good news story for us, as far as I'm concerned, as our COVID calls for service are going down. In regards to our media releases for West Perth, we had 8, and they touched on some domestics and some break-ins. Our traffic and crime campaigns. So for the month of July, 11 collisions in West Perth, 6 property damage and 5 personal injury. We had 2 stunt drivers. And I'll touch on the new legislation later on here. We had 1 impaired driver by drug, 47-year-old male from St. Mary's. And there was also a drug charge on top of the actual impaired by drug offense there as well. And we had the Operation Safe Driver, which was a campaign geared towards commercial motor vehicles. And we issued 12 speeding charges, 6 other provincial charges, and 1 criminal code charge. Our public education campaigns continue. The Ranch radio station is being used by Councillor Johnson to update the public with some of our local campaigns, as well as some important information to keep everybody aware of. She did do 3 groups of kinder camp participants here in West Perth, which allowed the kids to ask questions, see a police car, messaging about bike helmets, just reinforcing the importance of that. So again, that's another good news stories from us. We had 2 intelligent tips from Crime Stoppers, and our training obviously is ongoing. Regarding our mobilization, Councillor Coney obviously is, I can't say enough about this guy. He does a great job at looking after our mental health calls for service. And we had 1 mental health call for service for the month of July in West Perth. So that was down from the prior month of June. Noteworthy occurrences, just touching on this, our street crimes unit does a lot of stuff in the backgrounds that may not be aware to some of the individuals in the public here. But we do have a good news story here, where they were able to recover a stolen motorcycle from West Perth on Facebook. So they executed a warrant, and at one of our self-storage locations here in West Perth, and were able to get back the motorcycle that was stolen, obviously trying to be sold over Facebook. So a lot of good work by our unit there. So I wanted to bring that to attention to the board as well, that we do have a lot of people here in West Perth that are doing a lot of great work behind the scenes. And this is a good example of that. And then we also had an issue at the gravel pit way station where somebody was allegedly breaking windows. Our fast response to the scene obviously allowed us to locate the individuals, and they're subsequently charged with mischief. So again, another good news story by our members at the front line. Violent crime for West Perth was at 6, which was down from June at 9. Property crime, we're at 9, which was down from 16 the month prior. And again, attachment issues are pretty consistent from month to month. Staffing, COVID's getting better, and we're doing a great job here of protecting our members and making sure they have the proper PPE. So that is working well for us. And again, our 5 recruits arrive next week, so that will definitely help us there as well. Moving on to the collision stats. So for July, we were at 33, which was just up from this time last year at 20. But as you can see, the year-to-date stats, we're only at 188 versus 261 from last year. So we're down still 20%. And that's obviously what we like to see as well. So moving on here as well to probably the next important point here is the recoverable expenses. We did have to check on that. I think it was the last meeting before regarding that, and we've everything is on par and on date for that. So it all looks good, accurate there. And then going through to our bill, or sorry, our weighted calls for service. The second last page of my report just kind of sums up the hours total. Year-to-date hours for July of 2021, we're at 3,899 versus 3,208 this time last year. So just a slight increase. But again, that has to do with the COVID reopening of Ontario and whatnot. So once people get out and about, we are obviously engaged a little bit more. Any questions on the July report? Okay, that's a no. And if there is, we can definitely touch base after I do the August one. So I'll move along to the August report. So our calls for service for August, we're up to 422 versus 440 for July. So again, it has to do with the people out and about. The last 2 years have seen a great reduce in the amount of calls for service just because people are stuck at home and nowhere else to go. So again, I don't want to be a broken record, but that accounts for some of that. Our cruiser patrols just shy of 300, patrol hours at 21. Mobilization hours just shy of 12. Our ride programs at 37 hours. And again, our auxiliary hours 23. And we did have 2 COVID calls for the month of August here in West Perth. News releases. Again, continue to message out information to the public. We had 6. Again, trying to inform the public on awareness and emphasize the need for the public's help in solving crimes. And I wanted to just reinforce that as well, that we encourage members of the public to reach out to us if they do have a call for service that or a question, concern, whatever else. And if anybody from the board does receive any information from the public, please relay it to us so that we can keep apprised of what is happening and address the concerns accordingly. So our crime and traffic campaigns, 15 collisions for the month of August in here in West Perth, 13 property damage and only 2 personal injury, which is good as well. I'd like to see that at 0, but I know that's probably not a possibility here. But stunt driving, we had 3 stunt drivers in the month of August. And as the board may or may not know, we've had some change to the legislation regarding stunt driving. So as of September the 12th, it's now a 30-day license suspension followed by a 14-day impound on these vehicles. So time will tell to see whether that is having an impact on our stunt driving. I hope it does, but we won't fully understand that until the legislation's been in place for some time. We can do some study on that. So again, moving along here, we do have an impaired.
If I might just interject there, and we may have mentioned this in the past, but with regards to stunt driving, where the speed limit is below 80 kilometers an hour, it is not a 50 and over, which would be considered stunt driving. That is lowered to 40 kilometers an hour. So if someone's traveling at 90 plus kilometers an hour through town, a posted 50 zone, they are eligible for that those sanctions as well, as Jason just mentioned. So it tightens down a little bit better our ability to control those speeds as they travel through town. Just for everyone's awareness. Sorry to interject there, Jason. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for the update and giving us a small piece there, Acting Inspector Cinco. And for the month of August, we also had the Civic Long Weekend traffic campaign, where officers once again are out there enforcing the Highway Traffic Act. So we had some good numbers there as well. Again, Constable Johnson is definitely engaged with our school resource and media piece. She did attend a day camp in Mitchell on August 16th. And she's also incorporated a wellness to self-improvement library at our detachment, which allows some of our members to, if they're having any mental health concerns, whatever else, there's some literature that will allow them to pick up as they choose, and if they choose to do it what's going around at their leisure. That's the whole piece of that as well. We try to keep our members safe, healthy, and anything we can do to increase and make our members in a better place. That's definitely our priority here as well. The auxiliary program, it continues to open up here, and we continue to move forward with our training with our members and use them where we can. Mobilization, we had 4 mental health calls for service in West Perth in August. This is up from July, but up roughly on the same time frame for this time last year. Excuse me, focus patrol. I started the focus patrol for the reopening of the schools for September. I had that run the last day of August into the end of September. And if some of you may have seen, there's a speed sign up the road from the detachment by the new crosswalk there that I was able to borrow from the detachment, which I think has had a positive impact there to the public when they do come into town, just reminding them of the speed limit as well as the crosswalk there as well. So that's been there for some time, and I do hope that that's had a positive impact here as well. It is somewhat dependent on the weather. There is a battery in there that will run it on days like today, but if it runs through the night where there's no solar power charging to that battery system, it will go down at night or on days where it's overcast. So if I know I've had some inquiries about the sign is broken, but obviously it's dependent on the solar. So the more time the sun's out, the more the sign is running. So I'll probably have some more information on focus patrol come the end of September for the September report. Noteworthy occurrence this year. We had a motor vehicle collision involving a U-Haul, and again, kudos to our frontline members here in West Perth on Road 163. They determined that there was a 2 MCs motorcycles stolen in the back of that U-Haul truck. So we were able to recover those and get them back to the rightful owner as well. So kudos for our members for going above and beyond that as well. Regarding our trends, violent crime was up again in West Perth for month of July, stood at 9 from 7. And property crime was up at 19 from 12. So some of those trends that we don't have a whole lot of impact on, but obviously do play a factor in the calls of service here in West Perth. Attachment pressures again are same from last month. The 5 recruits again do arrive next week, and they'll be placed on respective platoons. So you might see some new faces here in town. So definitely feel free to approach the officers and introduce yourself, and hopefully our members will do the same. Regarding motor vehicle collisions, the stats there, 39 so far for August 2021 for the entire year. So we're up a little bit there, but again, if I just look at the year to date, we're still down 22%. So the months do fluctuate, and usually August being a busy traffic month when it comes to vacations, whatnot, a lot of members or a lot of people coming, going to Grand Bend or wherever. So we will see a slight increase in collisions typically for the month of August, but they should level out as the months go on. If I could move along here, our recoverable expenses appear to be on par and accurate. And I'll maybe just jump ahead here as well to our weighted calls for service. You might have had some questions on the increase. I'll just draw your attention to that. So the weighted hours to date were at 46.62 versus 36.57 from this time last year. And I can account for some of that increase through under the violent criminal code billing category. We were at 1,120 weighted hours versus 464 from this time last year. As you can see, there is some violent crimes that have been reported higher than this time last year. Again, we don't have a whole lot of control over that. We just that's a reactive call for service. But there's a lot of good work happening by our crime unit here to solve these cases, and they're doing a great job behind the scenes here as well. So the increase, those total weighted billed hours, will be linked back largely to the violent crime category. Any comments on that, Dr. Cinco? Dave, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I don't believe this is unique to West Perth. We've seen increases in these categories in other areas as well, not necessarily just in Perth County. But just as Jason had said, under the violent crime category, which captures everything from simple assaults to sexual assaults, uttering of threats, and so on and so forth. So some of this can be contributed back to what we're experiencing as we live and move through the pandemic. And we are experiencing some things, and today being the 22nd, where now we will have to have a receipt or show our vaccination status to enter some areas. That may increase some of our calls for service as well. But so the board is aware. Obviously, our position will be, we're there to keep the peace and maintain everyone's safety. We're obviously not there to be the persons checking those vaccination statuses for individuals at various venues. So I think that's something that we will adjust and grow and learn every day as the calls come in, and not necessarily just the police, but the private sector as well, where they're experiencing that, where individuals are now coming to their facilities. So we'll move through that together, and hopefully have some good reports coming back as we move forward on that. So pending any questions from the board, I think that explains, like Jason said, the increase in some of our weighted calls for weighted hours calls for service month over month. But again, at 1,000-hour difference, I'm sure the board has seen higher and lower in the past. So I don't think it's out of the ordinary at this point to see such an increase. So pending any questions.
Thank you, Inspector Cinco. Is there any questions from the board regarding the August report?
Looks good. Thanks very much for that report. Could we have a motion to accept the reports, please? Moved by June, seconded by Paul. Any discussion? Okay, thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. Can we move on to the financial report, please?
I can speak to it. Chair Harold, the report was circulated. We'll do our best to answer any questions. We may have to check in with the treasurer, but if there's any questions, we can follow up.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions or comments about the financial report as it was sent out to us? Seeing none, could we have a motion to accept the financial report as presented? John, thank you. Is there a seconder for that? Walter, thank you very much. And one last chance for discussion on it. Seeing none, we'll ask the question. All in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Thanks very much. Is there anything for other business?
Steve, we should maybe mention OAPSB, anything that came out of that meeting. And that would be the implementation of the new board and when it's actually established. That was stated in the OAPSB, right?
Go ahead.
Chair Harold, I can provide a quick update on the status, and then perhaps that'll, you may have, actually, frankly, Chair Harold may have more to offer about what's going to happen next than I'm aware of. But West Perth passed a resolution for a joint board on July 19th. North Perth passed a resolution that same evening of July 19th. Perth East passed their resolution supporting a joint board on August the 10th. All three resolutions were crafted with the same language, supporting the same configuration, just revised for the board names of the municipalities. The report was filed with Solgen on August 17th. It was me that filed the report. I received an online confirmation that the report was received, but didn't receive an email, which is, I think, the procedure. Chair Harold did follow up with Dwayne Sprague, and it's been confirmed by Dwayne that the joint submission was received. And I'll just mention that the joint submission supported by all three municipalities and that's been received by Solgen is an 8-member board with 3 municipalities. Each of those 3 municipalities are contributing 1 council member and 1 community member, and that would be 2 provincial appointees, which makes 25% that falls within the guidance provided for the board formation. So that's the status that I can provide on our end of the paperwork is done, but I do not know any more about potential implementation date.
Do you have those dates, Steve, or do you want me to give them?
Well, on the zone meeting, and maybe Inspector Cinco can answer this better than I can, but during the zone meeting, they don't have a definite date that it will be fully implemented at this point. Go ahead, June. Yeah.
No, they said it would be established January the 3rd and implemented before April the 1st, Steve, remember?
Right, but yeah, before.
Those were the dates that were given to us.
Yeah, it's a before date, but yes, that's right, 100%.
And they also said that all OPP proposals were accepted. Do you remember that, Steve?
The ones that were sent to Dwayne, he assumed when they were sent to him, they were accepted.
Yeah.
I don't know if they all got to Dwayne. He didn't. He just said the ones that got to him are assumed to be accepted.
Yeah. Yeah. But it might be interesting to the board to know that information. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I agree. The dates that you have there is the latest information that I was made aware of. But again, what I would say is a moving target at this point, trying to hammer down when, in fact, that will come into effect.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I felt the same. Yeah, June is right. Those are the dates that were mentioned. But yeah, it seems like a bit of a like you said, a moving target at this point. So we'll just continue to follow along and see how it goes. Do we have anything else for other business today?
If I might just have a couple of moments, Mr. Chair. We had mentioned the crosswalk signage and how that's come into play with the beginning of the school year and our speed sign that's been utilized there for the past couple of weeks. So at the Henry Street location there, and I had conversation with Mike Kramer that the signage, although it met the requirements of the Highway Traffic Act, when I first looked at it, and I don't know if anybody else is aware, but those LED flashing lights were visible from both sides on both signs. And then the signage, which was appropriate, was on the right-hand side, which faces the driver. But then you were looking at a post on the opposite sign with just a flashing light on it. So I had conversation, like I said, with Mike, and I said, if at all possible, if we could double up those signs, so you see the figure of the pedestrian, the crosswalk, the pedestrian there, and then it says stop for pedestrians. That is double-sided on each side. And I think it has a much greater effect. As you approach that, in lack of better terms, you can't miss it. That signage is there. And when you're looking, because sometimes what I found was that LED light attracts your eye to the opposite post, but then there was no signage on it. So now when that catches your eye, it's definite. You see the pedestrian, which is a standard symbol, and then you see the stop. And I've had several occasions to sit there and watch that location, and I think it's been very effective. So I think it's working very well. The only other thing on that topic, I have had those discussions with Mike Kramer about getting the speed sign and a post erected for the signage at the north end of town. So when our trailer is removed, that we have the ability to move that sign and put it there as well, which I think is a very appropriate location. I know we've had discussion in the past about those signs, and like I said, I've sat there and I've watched the brake lights come on as people now see their speed being broadcast on that sign. So the only other thing that I wanted to bring up, and very briefly, is we will be in Mitchell in the back office for the next 2 days conducting sergeant interviews. So we do have a vacancy here, and we'll be conducting interviews over the next 2 days, and hopefully in the near future we will name another sergeant for Perth County. And obviously with a trickle effect, if the individual is from Perth County, then we'll have another vacancy to fill on the back end as well. So but that's occurring over the next couple of days. So pending any questions, that's all I'd like to add today.
Go ahead, Walter.
Well, you were talking about the flashing crosswalk signs, and this isn't related to that, but it's kind of along the same line. And noticed at Russelldale, and that seems to be our pet topic every once in a while, Russelldale and Barnholm. But there was originally 2 flashing signs each way at Russelldale. As you said, one on the right-hand side towards the driver and one on the left-hand side. And I noticed when you're coming down, traveling from the east to the west, because there's a little bit of a curve in that road, the flashing light on the left-hand side actually caught your eye first and made you aware of something was coming up. For some reason or other now, there's only the flashing light on the right-hand side, and I just wondered what was the reasoning for that being removed. I thought it was really pointing out that was a problem intersection, you know, with the 2 flashers there.
I agree with that, the intersection there, and I have driven down there recently as well, because there was some indication that stop sign on the left-hand side wasn't there, but in fact it is still there.
Yeah, but the light is gone. Yeah,
the light is gone. So that's something that we can look into. I agree. The flashing light definitely that draws your attention, and when it's attached to that stop sign, which is an oversized sign there as well, there's no excuse not to see that. It definitely grabs your attention. So Jason, maybe that's something you can look into and just see if that's something that, if it has in fact been removed for whatever reason, that maybe we can get it returned as an effective measure.
Yes, I know Mayor McKenzie, you brought this up before, I think in our last meeting. And I just wanted to update the board that I have reached out to our MPO contact, Rob, and I can't really pronounce his last name that well, but I did lose his contact initially, but I did find the email. We'll go back to the date when we did the upgrade to that intersection and the study on it with MPO. So I have reached out to him. I'm waiting for a response from him. And I have not forgot your comment about that flashing light, Mayor McKenzie, on that roadway. So I have a list of things that I wanted to talk to Rob about, and hopefully we can get an answer for you on that. So I will, as soon as I have an answer for you, I will definitely reach out and moving forward. So I know the collaborative effort between us, the county, municipality, MTO was instrumental in making that a safe intersection. I can tell you that I did run a quick study on our traffic collisions at both the 164 line 20 and 164 and 44, and we haven't had any collisions at either one of those locations for July and August. So that's a big win-win in my books. So I know I did talk about putting their speed sign up in Bornholm there on 164 as well to capture some of the speeds going through the 70 zone. Had some technical issues with their device. I'm working on that with our IT people to see where the issue is. But that is definitely on my mind as well. And I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Okay, the only other thing that I'll mention, just more or less to make the board aware that we've got some issues, and Sergeant McTaggart is well, between Sergeant McTaggart and the municipality, we're trying to deal with it, and that's the issue with the whole and some problems with the neighbors immediately around there. I see June's got a bit of a smile on her face, so she's quite familiar with what I'm talking about. But it's just something that we have to monitor and keep on top of, I think.
Your worship, I was there actually just the other day at the end of school when school was letting out. And again, yeah, the kids are congregating. They're on the sidewalk. And at that time of day, it was the end of the school day. They were awaiting their buses to arrive. So I saw one young man vaping and the rest kind of huddled around. And I did have a bit of a conversation with the group and explained how, you know what, the school has neighbors and they need to be respectful. And I got nothing but good response from those young people. They were, like I said, they were on the sidewalk. They were aware of the conversations that we've had with them in the past and that the school has had with them. So I think, unfortunately, we're still going to have students on the sidewalks. I want them to be respectful and I want them to move along when it's time to move along. So we will be monitoring that. That's part of our school patrol, like Jason had spoken about earlier in our focus patrols, that we do have officers there. And I can mention that our school resource officer was in the school at that time as well. So I think we have some very polite students. We have some that are not so polite when it comes to their responses. And unfortunately, I think it's the latter group that is causing most of the problems. So we'll continue to monitor and continue to have those conversations, and hopefully we can bring this to some resolution.
I would agree. It's just a little bit of a problem area, and certainly what happens when they're on the sidewalk, people that want to go through there are a little bit intimidated by them, and sometimes they end up going on the street to get around them, and that's not the best scenario either. And if they don't do that, then they end up parking their bodies on somebody's lawn, and that's not working out real well either. So it's just a bad situation there that we got to keep working on.
I should mention that I did have that form part of my conversation as some younger students coming from the elementary school were walking along the sidewalk. And I had to remind the older ones that, you know what, you are on the sidewalk, please make way and just let these little ones through. Because the little ones they'll walk around them, they won't say a word. And you're absolutely right, they'll be onto the lawn or towards the roadway. And that's the last thing we want. The sidewalk is there for the purpose of traveling from point A to point B. And when they're congregating there, it does make it difficult for that to happen. But like I said, the majority, very polite, very respectful. For lack of better terms, they're killing time at that point in the day before they get on the bus. So I did make them very aware that they need to be respectful young adults and respect their neighbors, because those are the people that see what happens every day at that school. So
that's good. That's good information. Thank you very much, Sergeant McTaggart and Inspector Sanko. Is there any other business Anything else to discuss or bring up? No? All right, there's nothing. I don't believe we have anything for a closed session. We can move on to when our next scheduled meeting is, which is listed as November 24th, Wednesday, November the 24th. That works all right for everyone? Okay. If there is nothing else for the day, we will look for a meeting adjournment. Do we have someone that wants to make that motion? All right, June, thank you. And a seconder? John, thank you. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much.